Hello, I'm Gabe, and the purpose of this video is to inform parents on the risks of giving their children prescription drugs for things like ADHD and just behavioral issues. Um, and the reason I'm making this warning is because I was prescribed two drugs, and they had some pretty nasty side effects, and I think I need to get a warning out to all parents who give their children prescription drugs of for ADHD and behavioral issues, but for anything else as well. Um, Now I was diagnosed with ADHD, and that's why I was prescribed these drugs. I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I also had I had some behavioral issues when I was a child, just like every other child. But the two drugs that I was prescribed were Risperidone and Oxycarboxypine. I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, but these drugs they had some bad side effects. And I'll be going over those and telling you, my experience with them, what happened to me, and if they worked or not. Um, but before I do that, I just want to give you a quick explanation on what these drugs are and what their purpose is. Okay, so Risperidone, I have some notes here. Risperidone is an atypical antipsychotic, and it's mainly used to treat schizophrenia and bipolar. And I was pretty surprised to find out that it was used to treat that, because later in my life I did research on it. I took these in middle school, sixth or eighth grade, and later in my life, probably when I was about 18, I did some research on them, and I found out, I made some connections, and I found out a lot. And I was just shocked to find out that I was taking drugs meant to treat schizophrenics and bipolars. It's pretty wild. But risperidone works by changing the activity of certain natural substances in the brain. That's from medlineplus.gov. And the natural substances in the brain are, I'm pretty sure, referring to neurotransmitters, which is like your dopamine, your serotonin, and even your melatonin, which regulates your sleep, stuff like that. If you're not sure, now experts are not exactly sure how risperidone works. That's a quote from drugs.com. Experts are not exactly sure how risperidone works, but suggest that its main effects are the result of blocking serotonin and dopamine receptors. Other effects may be due to blocking other neurotransmitter receptors. I just thought that quote was worth noting to any parent, because a lot of these drugs they mess with your neurotransmitters, and that's important to know, especially if your child is like going through puberty, like I was when I was taking them and still developing. It can be dangerous to mess with that kind of stuff, mess with your neurochemistry and your brain, can mess with your development. Now, some side effects of risperidone, are drowsiness, um, and things like restlessness, tremors, or uncontrolled muscle contractions, irreversible tardive dyskinesia, and this is even with low doses, for short amounts of times. It can cause that, and that's basically, like you have uncontrolled movements in your face and even any other body part. But and the main one I want to highlight here, the main side effect of risperidone that can happen is breast development in men. And this is because it can increase prolactin levels. And this increase in prolactin levels can also cause impaired fertility, absence of menstruation, impotence, decreased bone density, and unwanted lactation. And as I said, it can cause men to form breasts. Okay? So that's my brief explanation of risperidone. I hope you guys are still staying with me because I think it's incredibly important that I get some of this information out to as many parents as possible. Now, this one's even more brief. It's Oxycarboxypine is an anticonvulsant. It's mainly used to treat seizures, certain types of seizures. But it's also used to treat bipolar. Again, I was shocked to find out that I was taking medicine for bipolar disorder, for something like ADHD and behavioral issues. That's a pretty serious disorder. Now, oxcarbazepine works by decreasing abnormal electrical activity in the brain. Now, I thought this is a quote from medlineplus.gov. Now, I thought it was important to note because for someone who, I'd never had seizures. I never had a problem with seizures. So for someone who never had a problem with seizures and doesn't have abnormal electrical activity in their brain, what is the effect that this might have messing with that electrical activity when it doesn't need to be? So again, now another quote I thought was worth noting is the exact way oxcarbazepine exerts its anti-seizure activity is unknown. Again, with the we don't know how it works. It's kind of alarming. And that quote is from drugs.com. Okay, some side effects of oxcarbazepine are central nervous system effects. So it affects your central nervous system. It can slow the speed of information processing. It can cause a difficulty of coordination, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, and is also associated with a higher risk of suicidal thoughts. Okay, so I gave you guys a brief explanation on the two drugs that I was taking. Now I'm going to tell you my experience with them. In middle school, this was 6th through 8th grade. I believe I started taking them in 6th grade. Now, before middle school, I was actually very energetic. I was social, had no problems socially. I was very energetic, pretty active, pretty fit. I wasn't like overweight or anything like that. But in middle school, it started to change a little bit because I started taking these drugs. And some of the side effects that these drugs caused were apathy, which basically means a lack of feeling, of emotion, lack of care, depression. It caused laziness, fatigue, sleepiness. I would fall asleep in class. I stopped doing anything active really. And I quit sports. I stopped doing anything active really. And I wouldn't pay attention in class. I'd actually fall asleep in class a lot. I'd be tired all the time, and I would walk through the halls, and it felt like there was I was just weighted down, and it also caused me to zone out a lot, kind of trance out, and all these side effects combined kind of induced a zombie-like mode in me. So I was kind of like a walking zombie. It's not good for a kid who's growing up or developing. It also caused me to become a little more socially awkward, or shy. I became shy when I was very social before, and I became shy, socially awkward. And the last one that I want to mention, and is the most important one, because I developed breasts. They made me, the medication developed breasts on me, and yeah, that's worth noting for sure. And now I'm 20 years old now. It's been a long time since I've been taking these drugs, and I work out every day, very active, and I eat very healthy, and I choose to believe that they're not permanent and I can do something about it. and I've seen a huge difference in the way I take care of myself. I've seen a huge change. So um, yeah, that's basically it. And I wanted to just warn parents about this, because a lot of the drugs we give our children are just recommended by, psychiatrists, and we trust that, and just give our kids that, and later we find out that there can be some pretty bad side effects that come with that. Um, so, in conclusion, I know my opinion may differ from, others, but from my experience, I don't recommend giving your children, or any child, prescription drugs, to modify their behavior. For ADHD, for behavioral problems, or just to modify their behavior, I do not agree with it. In my opinion, when I have my child, what I'll do for him if he has some problems, like he has ADHD, I will teach him to control his own energy, without the need to depend on external things like drugs. Okay. So some things that could help your child, if you feel like he needs help, and you know you don't want to put him on medication, and he needs to control himself a little bit better because he has ADHD. If he can't focus, he has too much energy, maybe he's jittery, or whatever, um or maybe just behavioral issues. um Teach him to channel his energy into something that's more beneficial to him. You could do this by, influencing him to do active things. Take him on walks in the nature. That's good. Sign him up for a sport if he likes a sport. Sign him up for one, if he wants, and just encourage physical activity. Go canoeing, kayaking, anything. If he likes to draw, influence art. Get him like an art set or something so he can draw and paint and stuff. But the key is to, if he has a lot of energy, and a lot of times, it seems like it's a little too much, he or she needs an outlet for that energy. So it's best to create one that will benefit him or her in some way. Another thing is meditation and breathing techniques, and this will help keep him calm, focusing, and it'll help with focus. It'll help with calm, and just focus on your breathing. Teach him some breathing and meditation techniques. It does wonders because it's helped me. And also another one I think is a big one, and this is my third and final. Okay, and I think this is a big one. Some may disagree, but I think it is the type of food that we give our kids. Because a lot of the food, it's known that it's not good for you, but the extent to that is actually not fully known. It's accepted as a norm to just eat junk food, especially when you're a kid, But a lot of the foods like Pop Tarts and cereals and candies, that has actually an ingredient called high fructose corn syrup in it, and that I've read studies on that. It actually sometimes has trace amounts of mercury in it. It can long-term use of that can cause obesity. It can lead to diabetes. It can increase the risk of heart disease, fatty liver, and cancer. So a lot of these harmful ingredients in our food are poison, basically, and they're harmful to our kids' health. And I feel like that's why a lot of times kids are like throwing fits and stuff. It's because they're being attacked from the inside. Their health is being attacked from the inside from their food. So I thought that was worth noting in there. But yeah, that sums it up right there. I hope that this message has reached someone and helped prevent them from going through what I went through. And yeah. So if you know anyone who this video would benefit, or if someone needs to hear this, please share it. And yeah, that sums it up. Peace out.